Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. So, I asked you guys what kind of things you'd like me to talk about. One of the things that came up was the topic of medications in recovery, and not just specifically medically assisted treatment like medications for addiction, but medications in general. So, here's my thoughts. Okay, so before I give my thoughts, it's important to know I am not a doctor. I have no medical experience. I have experience with different medical stuff, but I don't have any knowledge in that way. So this is just a personal opinion on stuff based on my experience in recovery and not, some medical thing. So I think the idea of medications in recovery can be broken down into two different topics, right? The ones that are specific for addiction, which I have given, I did a whole video on. I'll link it up in the top. I'll put it in the description about why I think medically assisted treatment needs to not be judged. I did a whole bunch of, I use peer-reviewed journal articles and scientific studies to back up my perspectives on that. So again, I'll leave that video linked. I encourage you to watch it. I did it a little while ago, but the information is still 100% accurate. And I think it's a good perspective. If you don't know a lot about, Suboxone, methadone, Vivitrol, I encourage you to watch it because a lot of times our opinions on addiction-related medications are based off of either something we've seen or maybe a med that we've taken during active addiction. And that can cloud our perspective on things. When you look at actual studies, you see that statistically speaking, those people who use some sort of medically assisted treatment along with peer-to-peer recovery programs tend to do better in the long term, right? And a lot of times there is this myth that taking a medication like that is replacing one drug for another. That's just not true. People get very upset when you say it, but the fact is it's just not true. If you take Suboxone as prescribed, you are not going to feel high. It's just not happening. Most people who take Suboxone for long term, they don't feel any different, right? It's just a medication you take in the morning. And sure, you can say, oh, well, you're going to experience withdrawal if you don't take it. Yeah, but okay, but same with a lot of meds. A lot of psych meds specifically, if you just stop taking them, you're going to experience some sort of withdrawal. They call it brain zaps. That sounds serious, right? I've been through that myself because I have seasonal depression, and there was a period of time where I did try to take psych meds to try and help with that. But the withdrawal from those was so insanely uncomfortable and scary that I decided in subsequent years that I was not going to take medications because of the withdrawal. So you can't judge withdrawal on a basis for whether you should take something or not, right? So keep that in mind. But when it comes to other medications, for example, blood pressure medications or psychiatric medications or any other type of medications that are not specifically for addiction, believe it or not, there are people in recovery who will tell you, do not take them. If you take that medication, you're not clean. I have seen people say that their sponsors say, I'm not going to sponsor you if you take this med or that med. To me, that's insane. No person who is not a doctor should ever, and I mean ever, tell you to get off a medication that you have been prescribed by a medical professional. Now, let's be clear. If you were going to that doctor that likes to write scripts for cash, and he's telling you, no, of course you need to take 30 Oxycontin a day, I'm not talking about those doctors, right? It's important that your doctors know you're an addict. It's important that you see a doctor that understands addiction, right? I think it's really important that if you were going to get any sort of psych meds, that you see an addiction psychiatrist, somebody that understands psychiatry, but also addiction. There's a big difference between a regular psychiatrist and an addiction psychiatrist. And I would highly recommend, if you have mental health issues, but you are also an addict, that seeing an addiction psychiatrist may be a really good idea because they understand all different types of mental health issues, because a lot of things for addiction, it masks itself with other illnesses, right? Or symptoms can be, very similar. For For example, when you first get off opiates, you may be very depressed. You may be super anxious, and a regular psychiatrist may assume that you have some sort of depressive disorder or an anxiety disorder, when in reality, you're just going through normal healing of your brain after addiction. Addiction damages our brain chemistry depending on what drugs you were addicted to. And so having a doctor that understands the brain damage that is done by addiction may help you in the long run with other psychiatric illnesses. So if you are seeing a psychiatrist that does not deal with addiction, they may not be the best help for somebody who has been addicted for years. So that's just my experience. But you cannot talk to a regular person and take their advice when it comes to medication. It is so easy for people. If you want to know someone's experience on a medication, you want to know how they felt when they had to change medications, sure, getting someone's experience is fine. But if you were ever in a program, a 12-step program or any other recovery program, and you have a sponsor or somebody else who's like, you shouldn't take that medication. I've even heard apparently people are abusing Naranon, which I don't understand at all, but like whatever. I used to blow Tylenol up my nose, and it doesn't mean Tylenol's a problem. It means I was looking for whatever, and that's what was around. There's a lot of reasons why someone may have to take Naranon. My boyfriend, for example, is an epileptic. And that's just one of the many medications that he has to take on a regular basis, right? Has nothing to do with addiction. He's been taking it for years, long before his addiction started. It's never been a part of his addiction, right? We can't use other people's experience. Can you imagine if I told my epileptic boyfriend, you need to stop taking Naranon because somebody over there is abusing it? And if they're abusing it, then it's not an okay drug to take, so you need to stop taking it. I mean, the man would have seizures and potentially, I don't even want to go into what could potentially happen. And I think that that's a problem. I think so often people are afraid to talk about medications in recovery programs because so many people have opinions on them. Your opinions on other people's medications don't matter. And maybe that's really harsh, but I think it needs to be said, right? A non-doctor's opinion on the medications that you are taking, that your doctor has prescribed to you, that your doctor has determined are the best medications for you, somebody else's opinion doesn't matter. And it's okay to tell them, yeah, I don't really care what your opinion is. I cannot imagine in any world where it is okay to tell somebody in recovery that the doctor who told them to take whatever medications shouldn't be doing so. Unless you are also an MD, or unless maybe you're an addiction psychiatrist and you happen to know that, a regular psychiatrist may prescribe, for example, here's just another way. A regular psychiatrist may prescribe something like Klonopin or some type of benzo to a person who has panic attacks or anxiety disorders. Whereas an addiction psychiatrist may decide that, before we go to something that's serious, let's try something like Referral, which is an antihistamine, which helps, or a blood pressure medication, which helps with anxiety, because it's safer for somebody who has addiction issues. So those can be some of the differences between a regular psychiatrist and an addiction psychiatrist. So if you happen to come across someone in the program who is an addiction psychiatrist and says, hey, maybe you want to see an addiction psychiatrist as opposed to a regular psychiatrist, all right, maybe that's something to worth listening to. But there is no time that it is okay for anybody in any recovery program to start trying to give medical advice, because that's what that is. When you were telling somebody what medications they should or should not take, you are now giving medical advice. If you are not a doctor, knock it off. I don't care whether we're talking about regular medications or we're talking about maintenance medications. I don't care what you think the program says. I don't care what your friends think or your sponsor thinks or whatever. The fact is that as a member of any recovery program, we do not have a right, and it is absolutely wrong for us to start shaming people based on medication or giving medical advice. And I just want to make that clear, because it seems like a lot of people get confused and think that they have a right to talk about other people's medications. They do not. Anyway, sorry if that was harsh. if you're not subscribed to my channel and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Like this video, it helps me a lot. Leave a comment. I love hearing what you guys say. I respond to everybody. Even if I disagree, I will respond. So let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something else I should discuss. Yeah, thanks guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye everyone.